Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome back to our Magic the Gathering lore series. Quick refresher. Last time Urza created Karn, they put Tarian into a ridiculous time bubble situation, and Urza destroyed Sarah's realm, powering the Weatherlight with its mana. In other words, if you missed our last episode, go watch it, it was pretty good. Before we start this video, I feel inclined to tell you that it may be a little more confusing than the others. The book jumps around all over the place, and we decided to go with how things happened in order rather than telling you entire plot lines at once. Pay attention, there's a lot going on in this book. We begin with Urza and Baron having a conversation at the Tarian Academy in Urza's laboratory. Baron bombards Urza with questions about the Weatherlight and why he doesn't believe their defenses are ready for the invasion. Urza explains that the Weatherlight's just the first piece of his legacy. Through years, he'll continue to create different components that help the Weatherlight evolve into something more powerful. The final stage of this evolution is a human component. Urza fears that he won't live long enough to see the invasion happen for himself. He knows he needs a successor. When Baron tells him that it'll take too long to train someone, Urza says that isn't a problem, because he isn't going to train candidates, he's going to breed them. Yeah. We start with bred soldiers known as Metran. They're created using significant magical power, then put into fast time streams that are still on Tarian to help them grow faster. Early experiments are relatively unsuccessful, sometimes super messy in a disgusting way. Urza tells Baron and the Chancellor of the Tarian Academy, Rain, that it'll take 40 generations of the Metran to create the perfect soldier. Even with the accelerated time streams, this process could take over 1,000 years. Baron decides that he, along with the most skilled pupils, must live in a slow time stream to assure that there will be adequate leadership to fight Phyrexia whenever they do invade. For reference, they'll live in this time stream for around 1,200 outside world years, while inside the bubble they'll only experience about 30 or so. On Phyrexia, Yawgmoth invades the mind of one of his inner circle members, Krog. He tells him about the plan to invade Dominaria. First, they must create a new artificial plane called Wrath. This plane will be created with the use of Flowstone, which is made up of nanobots that could be manipulated into pretty much anything. They also expand naturally, so that's a thing. Yawgmoth tells Krog that the ruler of Wrath, the Evankar, will represent Phyrexia on Wrath. It's about here that we get an update on Karn. Since the end of the battle on Sarah's realm, Urza had gone to live in Zalfir with Teferi. Being Karn's first friend, seeing her leave was particularly painful for him. In the years after that, she rarely came back to Tarian, and Karn grew more depressed and lonely. Even the happiest times in his life, piloting the Weatherlight by linking to it, would have to stop due to security concerns. Not only that, but Karn realizes that he can feel and be empathetic toward Phyrexians. His heart, coming from Xantia, was Phyrexian. Therefore, he'll always have a connection to them, and he hates that about himself. I almost didn't want to tell you guys about this chapter because it's just so sad. I'm so sad now. The Phyrexian Inner Circle member Krog brings a man named Daval to newly created Wrath. Daval used to be the leader of a town called Karasia in Dominaria. As he began aging, he developed a terrible disease that eventually led to his exile from the town. To stay alive, Daval made a deal with Phyrexia in exchange for helping them find lost and stolen artifice. Daval is brought to Wrath to be its overseer until Crow can find a proper Evankar. Daval must accelerate the expansion of the plane, deal with the revolting Vex slaves, and find a way to kill Urza Planeswalker. Back on Tarian, Baron and Rain notice that Karn is becoming even more isolated. It's clear that his decades of infinite memory are catching up to him. He cannot forget anything. Every moment of every day of every year he remembers. Urza decides that this will drive him to death eventually. To combat this, Urza makes it so that Karn can only remember the last 20 years of experiences. In time, he'll forget everything he knew about his birth and initial upbringing, including Urza. Terrified of this happening, he recites to himself every night, quote, Urza is my friend, my best friend. We met in the original academy before the accident drove us from Tarian. She named me, Karn, from an old Thran name. She said it meant strength. Unquote. Jeez. He would repeat this phrase over and over again on a nightly basis. Okay, here's something you need to know. The Metran project is about creating soldiers to fight in the war against Phyrexia. The Metran are also used to test enhancements that Urza wants to use on humans. The Bloodlines project is about finding a human heir for Urza through what is best described as selective breeding. He basically goes around to a bunch of nations, finds the best men and women there are, then gets them to have kids, hopefully using magic to enhance them. I haven't really talked about the Bloodlines project yet, but I will, so remember this. While all of this is going on, a genius student at the academy by the name of Gatha had been using the Bloodlines experiments as an excuse to use confiscated Phyrexian materials on the Metran, trying to make them better. Urza and Baron obviously did not like this, so rather than follow the rules, Gatha decides to forge documents and hitch a ride on the Weatherlight to a nation named Keld. There he makes a deal with the Keldan warlords who let him set up a new laboratory and experiment on their slaves and second-class citizens in exchange for military power. This book is so cheery so far. Baron gets word that Gatha's continuing his horrific experiments in the nation of Keld. He brings this news to Urza, who doesn't seem to care all that much. Despite the fact that the Keldans are known for being a war-hungry people, Urza actually applauds Gatha for having the willpower and sense of duty to fully explore the possibility of the Bloodlines project without reservation. Urza refuses to stop him from continuing these experiments. The hero, ladies and gentlemen. Daval, the caretaker of Wrath, has been busy. Not only has he increased the production of flowstone, but he also experiments with plane-shifting pieces of planes into other planes. During these experiments, he transports pieces of Dominaria into Wrath. During these plane shifts, 3 races become stuck in the shadows between Wrath and Dominaria, basically like a pocket dimension. The Soltari, Dothi, and Thalicos are able to see what happens on both Dominaria and Wrath, but are unable to have any impact on either. Daval spends a lot of time perfecting Phyrexian negators. He's determined to kill Urza. After many attempts on his life from these new negators, Urza realizes he can't stay on Talaria and begins planeswalking through the multiverse to stay one step ahead. After some years, Urza travels to his outpost where he continues the Bloodlines project. In the plains of Benalia, the project starts showing significant results. A particular clan known as the Capuchins are who Urza is most interested in. He spends some time there gaining the people's trust and eventually arranges a marriage between one of the Capuchin men and an Ortovi girl to continue the Bloodlines project. Gatha spends decades increasing the power of the Keldans. This is so effective that they take over most of northern Dominaria. His research is so impressive that it even gets the attention of Yawgmoth himself, who decides that Phyrexia needs Gatha's research and that he must be stopped before the army of Keldan barbarians becomes too strong to deal with. Urza, while keeping an eye on Gatha, notices that Phyrexia has also taken an interest in his research. Determined to stop them from acquiring Gatha's progress, Urza intervenes in the invasion. He's ambushed by 4 Phyrexian negators. When he's about to destroy one, it uses a portal to escape. Naturally, Urza chases it through the plains and ends up on Wrath. Flowstone is everywhere, expanding the plane exponentially. It's at this point that Urza figures out Yawgmoth's true plan. He means to expand the planar boundaries to their limit, then use the power of flowstones to force Wrath to literally overlay Dominaria, effectively destroying the entire plane. So that's a thing. After many Phyrexian invasion forces are defeated, Krog is sent as commander to find Gatha and destroy Keld. After fighting their way to the capital, Krog fights Krieg, the mightiest Keldan champion, and basically destroys him without any real problem. He then finds Gatha and throws him off a cliff to his death. Mortally wounded, not quite dead, and enraged at his defeat, Krieg lunges at Krog. While he does deal significant damage, Krog proceeds to kill the Keldan champion and plane shift back to Phyrexia, gravely wounded himself. On Wrath, Daval hears that Krog has been gravely injured. He uses this opportunity to seize full control of Wrath and name himself the Evankar. Once Krog is fully healed, he travels to Wrath to see the progress. He's met with Daval's personal negators that attempt to kill him. This goes poorly as Krog is back at full power, and messing with a Phyrexian Inner Circle member seems like a poor decision. Anyways, Krog waits for the right time to strike at Daval. Fortunately for him, luck was on his side. One day in the Flowstone factory, Daval was dealing with revolting workers when part of the factory crumbled, killing many slaves and trapping Daval under the rubble. Krog shows up, uses a grafted skull cap, and drains all the knowledge in Daval's head before letting him die. How anticlimactic. After seeing the terrible future Yawgmoth has planned, Urza returns to Benalia to find all the Bloodline subjects killed in a terrible Phyrexian invasion except for one. Turns out Yawgmoth found out about the Bloodlines project and started destroying everywhere Urza's been. Only one child, Gerard Capuchin, remained as Dominaria's hope to fight Yawgmoth and complete the legacy. Gerard was put under the protection of Karn and they retreated to wastelands far to the west. Urza and Phyrexia both retreat to gather their forces for what is sure to be the Battle of the Millennium. The book ends with Krog realizing that he now has near infinite knowledge after absorbing Daval's mind. Urza begins organizing his army of Metran soldiers while Karn gathers the scattered pieces of the legacy for the final battle. Things are escalating pretty quickly. Someone's going to die, I can feel it. I can't wait to read more. If you have any questions, please ask. This was a really difficult book to write about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, subscribe for the latest, most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.